Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a king who had a fair and lovely daughter, the princess. One bright and sunny day, the princess was playing with her golden ball beside a well in the royal garden. The ball, gleaming and bright, was her most treasured possession, and she tossed it high into the air, catching it with joy. But alas, as she threw the ball one last time, it bounced upon a stone and rolled straight into the deep well. The princess ran to the edge, peering down into the dark water, but the ball had sunk so deep she could not reach it. She wept bitterly, for the golden ball was lost, and she could not imagine a day without it. And as she wept, a voice called from the depths of the well, "Why do you weep, princess? What sorrow burdens your heart?" The princess looked about, but saw no one. "Who speaks?" she cried. "I am a frog," answered the voice. "Why do you cry, fair princess?" Then the princess saw a frog, its green skin shining in the sunlight, poking its head from the water. "Oh, dear frog," the princess cried, "my golden ball has fallen into the well, and I shall never see it again." The frog, looking kindly upon her, said, "I can help you, princess. I can fetch your golden ball from the water, but you must promise me something in return." The princess, desperate to recover her beloved ball, agreed without thinking. "What is it you wish?" she asked. The frog croaked, "I desire only that you take me with you to the castle. Let me sit beside you at your table, eat from your plate, and sleep in your bed. You must promise me these things." The princess, though puzzled, thought that such a promise was of little consequence, for how could a frog ever do such things? So she agreed, saying, "I promise, dear frog, all that you ask, if you will only return my ball." With that, the frog dove into the well and was soon seen rising from the water, the golden ball in his mouth. He hopped to the edge of the well and handed the ball to the princess. She was so overjoyed to have her ball once more that she scarcely gave the frog another thought. Without a word, she turned and ran back to the castle, leaving the frog behind. But the frog did not forget. "Princess," he called after her, "you promised. You must keep your word." Yet the princess, in her haste and joy, paid him no heed. She entered the castle and went about her day, forgetting the promise she had made. That very evening, as the royal family sat at supper, there came a knock at the door. "Open the door, my daughter," said the king, curious to know who had come calling. To her great surprise, there stood the frog on the doorstep, calling out, "Princess, remember your promise. You must let me in." The princess was filled with shame and dread, but the king, seeing that the frog had come to claim his promise, said, "Do as you have promised, my daughter. It is a matter of honor." So, with much reluctance, the princess took the frog inside, and he sat beside her at the royal table. He ate from her plate, and though she could hardly bear to look at him, the king reminded her that she must keep her word. And when the meal was done, the frog said, "Now, princess, you must let me sleep in your bed, as you promised." The princess was horrified, but the king again insisted, saying, "A promise must be kept." So, with a heavy heart, the princess led the frog to her chamber and placed him on a pillow beside her bed. She lay awake long into the night, tossing and turning, her mind filled with discomfort. But at last, she drifted off to sleep. When morning dawned, the princess awoke, and to her great amazement, the frog was no longer there. In his place stood a handsome prince, his fine clothes gleaming in the early light. "Dear princess," the prince said, "I was cursed by a wicked enchantress, and it was only through your kindness and the keeping of your promise that I have been freed from my spell." The princess, now filled with joy, embraced the prince, and her heart was glad. The two were soon wed, and together they ruled the kingdom in peace and happiness, and they lived happily ever after, as all good fairy tales end. And as for the frog, he had been no frog at all, but a prince who had been trapped by a cruel enchantment. True love and honor lie in the keeping of promises, and a kind heart and a faithful word can break the strongest of spells.